Hello children, in our lesson today we are going to learn all about contractions, and I'm going to talk you through some of the activities that are in our PDF file. I'm not going to do all of them, so you still need to read the PDF file because there are some things in there that I need you to do as well as watch my demonstration. So the focus of our learning today is all about contractions, and contract, the word contract means make smaller. And a contraction is formed when we join two words together to make another shorter word. Now, they're really important because we use contractions all of the time when we're talking. Let me give you an example of a contraction. Don't. That's a contraction. Don't do this, don't do that. So you remember in our poetry unit a couple of weeks ago, Michael Rosen's poem, Don't, he was telling us don't pour gravy on the baby and don't put your toes up your nose and things like that. Now, don't is a shortened form of do not. So do not do this, do not do that, but we tend not to say that. I don't think the poem would have sounded particularly good had we gone, do not put gravy on the baby. Do not is quite formal and don't is informal. So don't is what we use in our everyday conversation, and we will write it a lot, and we need to know how to do it. And we also need to learn today to be able to write our contractions. We need to know all about an apostrophe, and this is what an apostrophe looks like. You've seen it before, or something similar at least. You have seen a comma. And let's remind ourselves what a comma is. Here's my line, and this is our comma that sits on the line, and we use it to separate items in a list. So you can see in this sentence, children, I've written, I love cats, chocolates, and being a year 2 teacher. And because I've got a list of things, I've separated my items in a list with a comma. It replaces the and. It sits on the line. It's really important. It does not float in the air. If it floats in the air, it's not a comma, it's an apostrophe. And we're going to be using apostrophes in our learning today. So let's find out how to form contractions. I'm going to go back to my example from earlier, do not. The first thing I'm going to do is I am going to push the two words together. So I'm going to write them do not, so they become one word. To turn do not into don't, I need to get rid of the O, so I'm going to get rid of the O, and I'm going to replace it with an apostrophe, which remember I said it looks like a comma but is in the air. And it shows that a letter has been removed. It goes in the place of the missing letter. Do not becomes don't. Sometimes we have to remove two letters. So let's look at this example. I've got can and not here. I'm going to push them together. And then I'm going to remove two letters. I'm going to take away an N and an O, and I'm going to replace them with an apostrophe to turn cannot into can't. Let me show you a couple more examples now, children. Let's look at I have, that becomes I've once I've made the contraction. So I'm going to push the two words together. I have becomes one word. I'm going to get rid of the H and the A. There you go. And I'm going to put an apostrophe where they were to show those letters are missing, and I have becomes I've. Let's look at I am. We don't often say I am hungry. We go I'm hungry. So how do I turn I am into I'm? Well, I push my two words together. I get rid of the letter that I don't need, which in this case is the A, and I replace it with the apostrophe high up in the air. I am becomes I'm. Let's look at we will. We don't often say we will do this. We usually go we'll do it. So how do I turn we will into we'll? Let's push them together. Okay, let's get rid of the W and the I, replace them with an apostrophe. And there we have we'll. So let's have a look at those contractions I've just made. Don't, can't, I'm, will. Do you notice how the first first word doesn't change in the contraction. So do not became don't, but you can still see the do here. Cannot became can't, but you can still see the can. I have became I've, the I is still the same. I am became I'm, the I is still the same. And we will became will, and the we is still the same. The rule with contractions is that the first word does not change. And this helps us when it comes to working out what two words have been put together. Let's have a look at this now. So which two words have been used to make wouldn't? Well, I know that the first word doesn't change. So the first word would be would. The nth, missing letter there, so it's likely to be an O, so would not. Would not becomes wouldn't. I can work out the would not by looking at the first word and then knowing that the apostrophe has replaced the O in the nt. Let's look at another example. She'll. She'll do this, she'll do that. First word doesn't change, so the first word is she. My second word ends in a double L. It's most likely to be will because it's she will. She will. So in our first activity, children, you are going to become contraction surgeons. That means you're going to cut up some letters, and I actually mean cut them up. So let me explain what you've got to do. You've got a list of pairs of words that form contractions in your PDF file. I want you to write them out on pieces of paper. And then we're going to look at how we turn them into contractions. So let me show you. Here I've got do not. Remember I said I have to push them together and I have to cut out some of the letters to make the contraction. So I'm going to just swap that for one where I have cut up all the letters. Here's my not. I've pushed them together. I'm going to remove the O to create the contraction. I've got a plaster. I've put some examples that you can print out or you can just draw. I'm going to draw my contraction, my apostrophe on there to make my contraction, and I'm going to stick it there because obviously if we've cut something, it needs a plaster to help it get better. So that is your first activity. You are going to be creating some contractions by actually cutting out the letters. And this really does help us to consolidate what we know and our understanding. So that's your first activity. For our second activity, you are going to create a lift the flap booklet. So I'm going to tell you how to do it. You're going to need a piece of paper and you're going to fold it into thirds. So what you do is you fold the paper like that. So you kind of get the two halves, the two sections here meeting in the middle. You're then going to draw some lines. I used a ruler and I literally went down my page and drew lines and created some sections all the way down my page. When I've done that, I'm going to open it up. I put a little dot here so I could see where each section was. I'm going to open it up and I'm going to draw a line across the middle for each section like this. And this is somewhere where you might need some help from a grown-up or you could have a go yourself. So it should then look like this. Now, just like they do on Blue Peter, here's one I made earlier. And when you've got your piece of paper folded and lined off into sections, you are going to write some pairs of words on the front. One word on each side. So here I've got my do, my not, my could, my not. I might then write, let me see, I have put a list in the PDF file for you to use. You're then going to open it, when you've got all your words there, you're going to open it, do not becomes don't. Could not becomes couldn't. I have becomes I've. And you're going to do that for all of the pairs of words that I've given you. And when they're done, you're going to snip across the lines really carefully on each side. I've only done the top 3 because you can see those on the video. And then when you open them up, you can see that do not becomes don't, could not becomes couldn't, I have becomes I've. And this is a great reminder for you when you're doing your writing. So I hope you enjoy this activity, children. There are a few extra challenge tasks in the PDF file if you want to have a go at them, but they're not compulsory. You can do them if you want to. I think you have lots of fun with this. It's great cutting up the letters, and it really, really helps us to understand what a contraction is. We're going to be looking out for them in our writing. One little word of warning though, children, when we write our contractions, we need to make sure that we do snuggle our letters. And I should be seeing, oh, wasn't very good there. Don't looking like that, and not like that. So our letters need to be snuggled. Can't wait to see your work, year 2. Have fun. Bye.